Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Seal of Approval.
Hello there, and welcome back to Seal of Approval, the podcast bringing you weekly judgments on the latest movie news and reviews. I'm Callum, your host, and today I'm joined by my two guests, Alex and Dan.
Hello.
Good morning, afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are.
Yes, Dan joining us from the UK, currently surviving the, third or fourth wave now?
currently surviving. He won't
Yes,
be
currently
later,
surviving.
but right now he is surviving it.
Yes, at the moment I'm fine. At the moment, I do appreciate that, Callum. It isn't.
Just wait a little bit longer.
There's plenty more time left in the old COVID bones.
Fantastic. All right, well, Dan, to introduce yourself, do you want to tell us one of your top 25 movies of all time?
Oh yes, I mean obviously I know this is a feature on your podcast, so I've been thinking about it a lot. Now I do have one question here, so sorry to jump in with a question straight away. Are we talking favourite or best?
Ooh.
I think it's favourite.
Yes, it's more favourite. We're not doing any objective reviews today, just your subjective thoughts.
Okay, so in terms of favourite, I'm going to go in with one of my personal big guns, and it's Remember the Titans.
Oh yeah.
Yes, of course.
Oh, I love it. Like premier, top shelf sports, inspirational sports movie. It's just, and you know, if you want someone to lead your sports movie, you want a heavyweight, and so Denzel Washington's the man. I love it, absolutely love it. It's probably the film I've seen the most number of times. I might even be broaching triple figures with it, to be honest.
Oh wow!
It's just, and I can quote pretty much every line in it. I love it.
I'm sure that will come in handy someday.
Maybe when I meet Denzel.
Same goes for you, Alex. Do you want to give us another of your favourite films?
Unlike Dan, I haven't been thinking about this all week, and so I do have something I thought of just now though, because if we're thinking about best or favourite, this movie is by no means one of the best movies, but it's like a guilty pleasure kind of movie. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh wow!
Wow.
So I saw the comic book available. I'm like, what the heck is that? Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And then I saw that there was a movie for it. I'm like, that must be terrible. I watched it and I thought, this is awesome. And then I watched it again with like a family member and then another one. So like for me, you can tell I like a movie by how many times I watch it after watching it the first time, like how many rewatches. Yeah. And I just had to show everyone because I thought it was really good. I actually really like period pieces. And, you know, Pride and Prejudice, I'm sure, is a very popular period piece, but it's so boring, regardless of who you are. It is very boring. Even if you love period pieces and dramas and stuff, it's like, yeah, boring. But then Pride and Prejudice with zombies is the exact same plot, but the really pointless protagonists who just walk around and have lots of money are also like ninjas and kill zombies. So, you know, it made them a bit more redeemable. So that is my answer for today.
Well,
wow.
What a way to introduce this episode, yep.
Can I just say, there's a couple of things there that you said, Alex, that I really appreciate. First of all, that you like period dramas, because I feel like there's a thing, especially with guys, where it feels you can't like period dramas.
Oh, if I like something, I like it. It's yeah,
exactly. And actually, there's so much quality in period dramas. That being said, 6 or however many million hours of Pride and Prejudice, the BBC version, it's too much. I can't watch it again and again. I've not seen Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and honestly, the novel sounded amazing, and it didn't get very good reviews when it came out. So, on your recommendation, I'm definitely going to try it.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just like it's exactly like Pride and Prejudice, but with zombies. Like it's exactly what it sounds like.
I heard, didn't they do a sequel that was tied
They
to...
did Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. I don't know if that counts as a sequel, but
there was a wave of them. It's the same guy that wrote both of those books, the novels, the actual novels, and he wrote the screenplay, at least for Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And there was this kind of genre hopping thing that was going around about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a graphic novel
Yes.
first, and then that was a relatively poor movie. But I just never got around to watching it because people didn't really give it much of a chance.
I mean, I'm currently doing a Shakespeare in space, so I quite love that kind of stuff, you know.
Wow, nice.
Yes, no, we're very excited for that.
Wasn't Lily James in that as well?
She was. And I have to say, the guy who plays Mr. Darcy was pretty great.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've let everyone judge our taste, let's
Judge
move
away.
on to the all-important points. And we start, as usual, with round one.
Movie news highlights of the week.
In this round, I offer up clues to each of my guests, and they get a point if they correctly guess which movie news item it refers to. We'll give Dan a break, seeing as he's new to the show, so we'll start with Alex.
Sure.
So, which actor shot straight to the top this weekend?
Ooh, shot straight to the top.
Oh, these puns, Callum. The puns.
You're welcome. Officially a dad.
Actor, not actress.
And just remind you, I do have a second clue for each of these.
Oh,
However,
I'd love a second clue.
That's a tough clue, that is.
And then after this, then you'll have to pass it over to Dan, who sounds like he knows what it is. So, clue number 2. Who has taken over Wonder Woman 1984 at the box office?
This is Liam Neeson in Marksman.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're quite right.
Taken. I'm glad I didn't get the first one just to hear the second clue. Yeah.
You're welcome. Liam Neeson's The Marksman wins the box office this weekend with 3.2 million, dethroning Wonder Woman 1984.
I didn't even know it had come out yet. Great.
Just dropped. Liam Neeson initially announced he would retire from action movies after Non-Stop in 2014, but has now said that this should be his last year, as he will be turning 69.
That's not going to stop him.
To be fair, the dude's in great shape for a 69-year-old. I mean, if you can, keep making that money, man.
Yeah, apparently he still has a few more in the pipeline that should happen before retiring.
It sounds like he's not saying, he's saying I'm retiring from action movies as an attempt to do different movies. Like, please stop casting me as action heroes, but cast me as dramatic protagonists, because I can't get an Oscar if I'm just doing action films, please.
Yes. I mean, he's currently in Aussie right now, over in your neck of the woods, Alex.
Oh, yeah? What's he doing over here?
Shooting another action flick called Blacklight.
So, hold on. Blacklight? Did you say Blacklight?
Yes.
So he did a movie he did one called The Grey or something, didn't he?
Yes, The Grey was Wolf Puncher.
Okay, yeah. I'm just trying to think if he's done something about The White or something. I don't know. Is there a theme here? Is it part of a trilogy?
It's a merging of these of two franchises.
Yeah.
Would you be down for a sequel of The Grey, Dan?
I don't know. I think that movie was unfairly represented when it came out. I think he doesn't punch any wolves. So, spoiler alert: Wolf Puncher, as it's called, doesn't punch any wolves until you never see him punch them anyway. I think it was really unfairly marketed in that way, and it's actually a much smarter film than people think it is, because they went in expecting something off the back of Taken and everything, and it didn't quite deliver what they were expecting. So now he's gone back to just doing the kind of the bog standard rote action movies, some of which are okay actually. But
I think The Grey's great, actually. I agree. It's well written.
Joe Carnahan directed The Grey, and he's great. And it's a shame that he doesn't do more, to be honest, as a director. So he also directed Smoking Aces, which I really, really, really liked.
Oh, I like Smoking Aces. Yeah, that's a good one.
And he directed Narc as well.
Do you know what I liked about Smoking Aces? That Ben Affleck was in it for about 5 minutes and then got killed by Chris Pine. And then Chris Pine played with his jaw as if he was apologizing and talking to dead Ben Affleck. That was a great moment.
Yeah, it was. And Chris Pine and Ben Affleck both kind of playing really dirty characters, really against type. And that was cool as well. So many different actors playing just ridiculous roles.
like Jason Bateman in like women's lingerie as like a weird, creepy
Yeah, it's
informer.
mad.
Yeah,
It is literally mad. It's bonkers.
and funnily, the only one who wasn't in a bonkers role was Ryan Reynolds, who's normally bonkers,
Yeah, he had to be the straight man of the piece, really, didn't he?
which is pretty funny actually.
Yeah, because he's not actually funny at all. But anyway, enough of my hatred of Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, dear.
It's going to be a reoccurring theme on the show.
The problem sometimes when you get to actors of a certain age is you can tell when their heart is in it and then when their heart's not in the performance.
Harrison Ford.
He's been like that his whole career, man.
Yeah.
You know, and you could say your De Niro or Pacino, any of these older actors, sometimes because they're so good, when they're on, they're really on. And when they're not, you can tell. And for most actors, they'll have to really push themselves to get to a point that, you know, a Liam Neeson could do in his sleep. But unfortunately, because we know what he can do, sometimes some of these movies, you're like, oh, come on, just pick up your feet a little bit. Do something a bit more.
You're phoning it in. Yeah.
But, man's got to make bread. So I don't blame them necessarily. But yeah, I like him. And I thought Nonstop was pretty good. Unknown was another one that I actually really liked of his recent action ones.
Unknown is actually probably one of my favourite Liam Neeson films.
Yeah.
That's not the one where he has memory loss or something?
Yes, that is the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
And okay. I think I did see that one.
Do you think that Liam Neeson is too old for these kind of roles? And should he have quit long before now, or is he fair game?
No,
I just want to point out he is as old as my granddad. So
yeah, but like, there's like, I mean, just think of some of those performers who are also really old, still doing action movies, or still doing movies. Like, you can't say anyone's too old to do movies or anything like that. But action movies, I don't know.
It's a tough one.
The question is like, how often can you suspend your disbelief that obviously he's playing different characters, but it's like, are they that different a lot of the time? And somebody's like, I don't know what this one's going to be like. This what is it? Marksman. Yeah, I don't know what it's like, but I just keep thinking like, so long as they're different enough that it doesn't get tired, I think it's fine. I think that's the main issue. Is like, if you have one person who keeps doing action movies, think of Tom Cruise, right? Tom Cruise is also, I think he's like 60 now, potentially. I think he's 60.
Tom Cruise is 58.
So what's mad about that? So first of all, we're talking about Liam Neeson potentially being too old to do action movies still. Tom Cruise is only 10 years younger than him. It's not like, he's 20 years on him. That's only 10 years difference. So are we going to be saying that about Tom Cruise in 10 years? And, granted, Tom Cruise's stunts and his particular style of action is more physical than what we see from a lot of Liam Neeson movies.
So he's done lots and lots of action films, but sometimes they can get a bit similar because he looks the same, he's acting the same, he's doing action stuff. And the plots, while different, has similar elements. I think that's the main issue, is having a action actor with enough diversity that they can get away with just doing action films, because action films can get a little bit just the same.
Yeah, if it feels a bit like a copy and paste character.
Yeah.
It's just drag and drop.
Yeah, that's kind of my main issue. I think that if they can make a good enough film with a more like a different character, then yeah, you can do it when you're 90 if you can, why not?
I think Alex is spot on. I think it just depends on the movie. I think the issue with Liam Neeson, he's done so many of them recently, is that you do feel a bit of a drag and drop. And I don't think it's a huge problem if you get to an age, as long as you play up to it. The suspension of disbelief that you mentioned, that's the whole point, really. When you get somebody like Clint Eastwood for years, made a living off of being an old action hero. But if you look at something like Unforgiven, the whole point is he was an older action hero. If you're trying to play him off as being 30 years old, you're not going to get away with it. Or
Gran Torino, which isn't really an action film, but it has elements to it where it's
exactly
like clever. They're playing off the fact that he's old and and really well written and acted. Like, that's
exactly if the writing leans into the fact that the actor is portraying that character in a certain way, it's fine. As soon as, and to be honest, my only problem with Unknown was Liam Neeson was put opposite the actress from National Treasure. I forget her name.
Diane Kruger, is it?
Diane Kruger.
Diane
Yeah,
Kruger,
yeah.
that's the one. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's another issue entirely,
It
where you
is. Yeah.
have men who can play old men. Like the biggest example is the new Hugh Grant series. If you've seen, Hugh Grant's got a new series with Nicole Kidman.
Oh yes, I did. Yeah.
And if you look at the posters, at least, or even footage from it, Hugh Grant is quite old now, and they play him into it. Say, look at him; he's lined. He still looks great, but he's old. Whereas
He's rugged.
Nicole Kidman is airbrushed the
Yeah.
entire time to make sure you can't see a single. She looks like porcelain, even though she's like only a little bit younger than Hugh Grant, and it would make sense if they made her look like she actually looks, because they would look like husband and wife. But they make her look, or try to make her look, 20 years younger, so their relationship, while that's not the case in the show, like makes it feel as if like he's a cradle snatcher. But like I think that's more of a Hollywood's issue with being okay with really old men having really, really young wives as protagonists. Like that's really common too.
And the great irony of that is finally Hugh Grant is being put opposite a woman of a similar age to him. He was in that film with Meryl Streep. They obviously have slightly different ages, but even then he had a mistress who was younger than him. But it's the irony that finally we've got this chance to have an older actor who, whether you like him or not, is one of the A-lister actors, opposite an actress who is quite clearly a very similar age to him. But they still find the need to try and age her down. So I think I'm happy if I see a Liam Neeson movie and he's going to play an Unforgiven style Western where he's older and he's obviously crotchety and angry. And to be honest, did you see Walk Among the Tombstones?
No.
Yes.
I thought
Yes, I did.
I thought it was a pretty decent stab at trying something different. It's quite low budget. I think it was a writer director's, like a first time feature. But I appreciated it for trying to do something where it put him in a bit more of a position as this older retired cop who clearly had issues, rather than saying this is obviously someone at his prime, at his peak, because that's the problem when they try and pass somebody off as being at their prime. So the guy is obviously in great shape. If he can keep making them as long as he likes, as long as the writing doesn't portray him as trying to be some young stud, I think is the crux.
And can I just also say that show with Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman is called The Undoing? And I've just looked up a picture here, and Nicole Kidman actually looks like an alien. Like she looks so airbrushed, but they're actually only 2 years apart in age.
Wow, that is a Hollywood thing, though. I know when they were doing Mortal Engines, obviously it's a post-apocalyptic world. And so all the characters had dirt on. The makeup artists obviously spent a lot of time putting dirt on. And then some of the higher-ups made the decision to go through and spend lots of money VFX airbrushing all the characters. And that's why they look a bit weird in the film, because they're quite clean, which doesn't fit into the environment. But anyway, we'll move on. Move on now. I just want to leave you with a quote by Liam Neeson about shooting action films. He says, "I love them. I love beating up guys half my age. I've just finished one in Australia, and I had a fight scene with a lovely, sweet actor, and halfway through the fight, I looked up, I was breathless, and it didn't cost him a cent. And I said, 'Taylor, what age are you?' And he said, 25. And I said, 'That's the age of my eldest son.'" Okay, moving on. Now I have a clue for Dan.
Right, bring it on, Callum. Bring it on.
So Dan, your first clue.
Yes.
Who's being put in a cage with animatronic animals?
Oh, who's been put in a cage with animatronic?
I got
Sounds like Alex knows this one.
Good clue.
Oh, Alex has got it, has he? Oh dear. Go for it. Send me the second clue. I'm not going to let him have the pleasure.
Which actor is taking a trip to Wonderland in a new trailer?
Oh. I read this. I've forgotten.
I'll hand it over to Alex. Do you want to tell us?
Alex, tell me.
I do. Oh, great pleasure. Nicolas Cage. Fun clue. Yeah, Nicolas Cage in a new animatronic horror action film. Nick Cage fighting animatronic demon things, whatever.
Is it called Willy's Wonderland or Willy in Wonderland or something like that?
Something
Yes,
like that,
Willy's
yeah.
Wonderland. Spot on.
How can I forget that? Nicolas Cage, another man that seems to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants.
Yeah,
Yes,
at
and
100%.
this is a new trailer drop for Nicolas Cage's movie, where he is stranded in a remote town and agrees to work as a janitor in exchange for his car being fixed. Animatronics come to life and try to kill him. Have you seen the trailer, either of you? No?
Yeah, I
I've
watched
not
it
seen
without. Yeah, I watched it without sound, so I didn't know what was happening. But I just was watching things happen. I'm like, oh, okay then. Yeah, cool. Fair enough.
I mean, it's very self-aware from what I can see in the trailer.
I feel like everything he does in the last 10 years is in the same vein. Like, I don't know.
He's got
like,
another one coming out that's based around someone trying to capture him or something. But his real life
Yes, yeah, where he plays himself.
basically plays himself being
sounds
chased.
like Last Action Hero or Being John Malkovich or something like that.
It is something like that. It's called. It's got a really weird name. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Right.
Are you being serious right now?
Yes. So let me read the plot. I don't think I can. This is only a snippet of the plot. A cash-strapped Nicolas Cage, so playing himself, agrees to make a paid appearance at a billionaire superfan's birthday, but it's really an informant for the CIA, since the billionaire fan is a drug kingpin and gets cast in a Tarantino movie. So, I mean,
What?
make of that what you will, but it's going to be mental.
Wow.
And I'm here for it.
I was going to say, which leads me to my next question. Do you like Nicolas Cage, and what kind of Nicolas Cage do you like? Is it the crazier the better for you? Or?
I like them all myself, but I know it. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
So he does this thing with his movies. You know, people often talk about this a one for you, one for me style situation that some actors do. They'll do an indie, which is for them that kind of flexes their more actorly muscles, and then they'll do a tent pole, or they'll play a bad guy in a Marvel movie, and it's basically just for the money, and they'll kind of alternate back and forwards. Nicolas Cage does that, but they're all for him. So there's no one for me, one for you. It's more like one for me, which is a terrible B movie, action movie, and then one for me again, but this time it's an absolutely insane, bonkers action, horror, comedy, whatever. And he just alternates between the two. So half his movies in the last 10 years have been pretty forgettable B-movie, action movies, and then some insane, unforgettable horror, comedy, action movies. So you've got things like Mandy, if either of you saw Mandy.
Yeah.
Even Mum and Dad, that was mental as well. There's another one that he did, Color Out of Space. That was it.
I haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
that yet. I do want to
haven't
see that.
seen,
Yeah.
I've heard is both terrible and incredible at the same time.
I feel like that describes him entirely. Terrible and incredible. Like,
He's
Yeah.
a complete oxymoron. Like, how is he so good and then so bad? And how does he do movies that are so good and so bad?
but also, how has he been doing it as long as he has?
Right? I mean, I don't know if either of you have watched the TV show Community, but I love Community. To be honest, I love TV shows in general. And there's an episode where Abed has to argue whether Nicolas Cage is good or bad, and it essentially turns him insane. Like, he has a mental breakdown trying to work it out, and he ends up crawling on the desk. I'm a cat. I'm a sexy cat. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, so my question for you two is: Nicolas Cage underrated or overrated?
Alex?
I feel like he's very rarely rated. He doesn't get, at least today, I mean, he's been around for a very long time. And that entire time, he has been doing the same thing. When I say the same thing, it's everything and madness,
Yeah.
But he's been in that state for 40 years, I think, or maybe more.
Yeah. I think I would describe him as the weird uncle of Hollywood, that turns up and you kind of ignore him. You're like, oh yeah, that's Nick over there.
Yeah.
He's doing his thing. He certainly hasn't been in the limelight properly since, really, I would say, Ghost Rider. Around that time when he's doing things like that and National Treasure, and since then, yeah, he's been doing just a weird mix of stuff, and people just kind of go, oh, look, Nicolas Cage did something crazy again.
Before that, you have things like Face Off, and like
Yeah.
his early 90s or even 80s, he's still as wacky as anything. If you've ever watched on YouTube,
Oh,
Nicolas
yes.
Cage loses basically it just takes his most insane moments from every film and puts it to Requiem for a Dream, and
It's amazing.
It's epic. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head, actually, Alex, and I'm going to steal that phrase. Is he overrated or underrated? I think he's rarely rated. That's what you said. That's amazing. Yeah, when you think about it, he literally did Raising Arizona, for which he won an Academy Award.
Yeah.
Then the following year, he did what I consider the Nicolas Cage trinity of The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. So he went from this character actor, playing with the Coens, and then doing Raising Arizona, and then all of a sudden he's this kind of action hero doing these crazy action movies, and he just oscillates between the two, really. And you're right, people don't give him, they rarely give him attention anymore, and I think that's kind of the way he likes it. I had a friend when I used to work at a popular CD and DVD emporium in the UK, and he moved to a local one in Bath down south in the UK. Nicolas Cage has got a house down there, and he went into this shop once and he served him, and he said he was just the nicest, funniest, slightly weirdest guy ever. But he was an absolute delight. He just totally walking around this huge long black trench coat, just looking at DVDs and CDs, and he picked up a couple, bought a few, happy to have a little chat, and then off he went, kind of into the darkness, as he tends to do.
I mean, the real question is, which movies did he pick up?
Oh, I did ask him, but to be fair, this was like a decade ago, so my memory is not that great anymore.
That would be a fun question to answer.
It'd be great if his own movie,
or like some Disney cartoon or something, like.
Yeah, I'm sure he picked up some like
Lion
studio.
King or Face Off, either one.
Yeah,
I don't know
Nicolas
if he
Cage.
strikes me as the kind of guy who watches his own movies. I don't know.
I think he does. A lot of actors say that they don't watch their own stuff because they get embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I think that Nicolas Cage is one of the guys that watches it and
probably claims that he watches it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he does.
You know what movie I thought, like, it really gave me a resurgence of, like, wanting to follow his career again, which was, it was Kick-Ass. When I saw that at the movies, I was like, he is so good. Like, he's so funny and quirky and epic in that movie. I don't know. It was a pretty intense film. I remember watching it. I hadn't watched a lot of intense movies until I'd seen that when I was young. Just his mannerisms and stuff in a superhero film, and then it being as gory as it ended up being. I just thought, this guy is really, really great at what he does.
Yeah, it was a real surprise of a movie, and a bit of a return to form for him. And he obviously was once touted and tested and almost, I think he was cast to play Superman, which would have been strange, definitely. But
it was Tim Burton's Superman, right?
Yeah.
Well, he probably would have been forced to do it like a very straight kind of thing. And I feel like Kick-Ass was his, like you say, a resurgence. Is where he decided to do something a bit quirky again. And I remember watching that going, Nicolas Cage isn't quirky. Nicolas Cage doesn't do like experimental weird stuff, because I'd known him from those three action movies, Con Air, Face Off, and what was the other one? The Rock, as well as National Treasures when I was young. I'm like, that's how I know him. He's an action hero. I'm like, this is a bit different. And then I got interested in his career. I'm like, no, this is way more like what he's actually like. Yeah.
It's funny. It was in Kick-Ass. It was almost like and I know this is kind of weird because this is the whole point of this character almost, but he was almost like a less angry Batman, which was kind of more interesting actually. Because I mean, at this point, we all know that Batman is angry, and all the trailers for the Batman.
Maybe not, because he was pretty angry. I think he was less angsty.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's probably a good distinction. Yeah. Less angsty.
He was less brooding and more just going around killing people and like laughing about it with his daughter. But he was furious, but also less, I'm just really angry about this, less showy and broody about it.
Well, I guess the extra layer that he had on him that Batman doesn't have on him is that he had a daughter, and he clearly had a life of sorts. And even though he's got this really twisted relationship with her, and I mean twisted in the way that he essentially is teaching her to be a murderous psychopath at 11, 13 years old. But that kind of mutes him down a little bit. It gives him a bit of a direction. I'd be interested to see a Batman movie that explored that, to be honest. And I wouldn't mind seeing a Nicolas Cage in it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love him.
Here's a question: is Nicolas Cage touted to be in anything in the DCEU or MCU?
No.
No? Okay, interesting.
No, not even rumored.
Well, he was Ghost Rider.
Yeah, but I mean, when they started to actually make an extended universe,
The franchises,
yeah, something. No, but he is going to be. I just remembered he is going to be Joe Exotic in a Tiger King.
Is he?
movie. Oh yes,
yes.
Which I'm so down for.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on. I'll open this next clue up to either of you. So the first person to jump in with the right answer gets the point.
Ooh.
So here goes. Who is never giving up or surrendering on the idea of a sequel?
Oh. Never give up, never surrender.
All I could think of is Rick Astley.
Never give up, never surrender. What is that?
Never gonna let you down. Never give up, never surrender.
You're gonna kick yourself.
That's not from Braveheart, is it?
No, you're gonna kick yourself even more.
Oh no! Have you got another clue, Callum? I don't know about Alex.
Another clue. Who swears by Grapthar's hammer that another movie should happen?
Oh, Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Tim Allen. Really?
Yes. Spot on. Never give up. Never surrender.
How can they do that without Alan?
Alan Rickman. Yeah.
Alan Rickman. How can they do that without Alan Rickman?
Yes. Well, this is the news that Tim Allen says that Galaxy 2 Quest script is amazing, and could still work if they just swapped out Alan Rickman's character for another one of the crew. So, yes, Amazon did at one stage start developing a Galaxy Quest TV series, but that ended up getting scrapped.
This is the second week in a row that you've had a Tim Allen news.
I know, yeah, maybe that's going to be the running theme as well, is hating on Ryan Reynolds and talking about Tim Allen's.
Tim Allen, come on, Tim Allen, bring it back.
How underrated Tim Allen is.
Should Tim Allen be doing more action movies?
Yeah. So with Nicolas Cage. Make it happen. So is a sequel a good idea, or is it lightning in a bottle?
I really liked Galaxy Quest. I thought it was so funny. I don't know. But then again, that's the real question that I always ask is is any sequel really necessary most of the time? Just because it was good doesn't mean we need another one. Other things can be good too. A lot of really good movies have terrible sequels, and I feel like that's one that really could be. It would probably flop because he is not in the prime of his career like he was at the time, and I feel like it just wouldn't sell.
The original wasn't actually received well. It opened 7th at the box office.
But it was still during the prime of his career. And so now it would probably be even more so, just a straight to DVD kind of release kind of thing, Not that they do that anymore, straight to streaming.
He was coming off the back of some big TV shows. He was quite a big comedy hit at the time, wasn't he?
And he'd done the Christmas movies. Didn't he play Santa in a bunch of movies and the Christmas movies?
I think there might have been just after, but it's around the same time, yeah. I'm going to be that guy. I didn't really like Galaxy Quest. I thought it was okay. I mean, I think it was a while after it was released that I watched it, and I don't know. I know obviously it's supposed to be a little bit spoofy. That's kind of the point.
Completely spoofy.
It's entirely spoofy.
It's like Spaceballs for Star Trek, basically.
Yeah. But it's not as spoofy as a Spaceballs, and
no, not at all. A little more likable than Spaceballs, I think, as well, because of that reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a sequel would work, to be honest. It's been, but if they were to write, green light, shoot, whatever, it would be 25 years at least since the original release. Everyone's older. Alan Rickman obviously isn't there anymore. A lot of those actors just don't have the same. And I know this obviously is probably an issue that you've talked about and that you could talk about for hours. They don't have the same pull at the box office anymore. But even the likes of Sigourney Weaver, it just doesn't have the same status anymore.
The only one would be the exception of Sam
Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell's career has gone amazingly well since then.
Yeah,
that's the exception.
But he's also kind of carved himself out a bit of a low key niche. Really, he doesn't really go for anything big. I think obviously Iron Man 2 was the last.
I'm
really
thinking
big
more like 3 Billboards in Epping, Wyoming.
Yeah. And he was in a movie called The Way Back, which I absolutely loved.
Yes, he was great in Way Back. He's done a lot of really great films, a lot of really amazing performances. But you're right, like it's still he's not a household name, I guess.
No, he's not a Ryan Reynolds, is he?
Ugh,
yeah. But he's so much better. He's so much better in lots of ways. Epping, Wyoming, or even Seven Psychopaths.
Yes,
he's cool. He's incredible. He's incredible. Big fan.
He's great in everything he does, like hands down.
And his character's great in Galaxy Quest, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just love that line when they're saying, we better get out of here before he gets killed.
Yeah.
Implying that none of them are in any danger at all, but just because he's the red shirt.
But it's funny now that he's the only one with a viable career, like in terms of as an actor. The rest of them, like there's the guy from Monk. The guy from Monk is in it.
Yes.
I can't remember
Tony Shalhoub, isn't it?
Yeah. Like who was big in the 90s, as were most of those actors, except for Sam Rockwell, who was just starting out, I think. But so he's kind of the only one left with a career. Yeah,
I mean, Sigourney Weaver will be back in the limelight once the Avatar sequels finally drop. But
yeah, I mean, she never leaves she is a household name. Sigourney Weaver is, regardless of if she's still acting, she's reached a point now where people will always know who she is, I reckon.
I would hope so, anyway.
Yeah.
But I think she's similar to someone like Jamie Lee Curtis, a big star of the late 80s, early 90s, who now older. And again, I mean, I don't mean to touch on all of Hollywood's issues in this 1 hour that we get to talk, but their reluctance to actually cast anybody over the age of 40, let alone over the age of 50 or 60, or give
unless
them anything
Helen
meaningful.
Or
unless
Judi Dench.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're doing a period piece and you're playing the old grandma, then you might get away with it. But which is a shame because both Jamie Lee Curtis and Sigourney Weaver are still terrific actors. So I wish they would be in more. But I know Tim Allen likes it. Obviously, Toy Story has run its course for him. He's probably not going to get any more Toy Story voice work, which is a cushy job. But I don't see this happening, to be honest.
I doubt it would be a good idea, even though I loved the first movie. I think it is hard to recapture, especially with the way the Hollywood machine is these days, And with that, we're on to round 2.
Mostly rotten.
In this round, my guests have to guess the Rotten Tomato scores for various movies, and the closest guess wins the point. So, we're going to do the Taken trilogy. Seeing as we're on the Neeson theme.
On the Neeson train.
So, yes, non-stop action.
Whoa.
Dan, would you like to give us the critics' score for the first Taken movie?
Oh, yes. So, thinking back so long ago now, I mean, you two were mere whippets at the time when Taken was released.
Taken was 2008.
Taken was 2008, was it? Okay, cool. I think it got pretty well received. I seem to remember it being hovering around the lower 4-star mark. So I'm going to say a solid 75% Rotten Tomatoes from a critic's perspective.
Okay, and Alex, for you, the critics score.
I'm going to take a book from Charles, a leaf from Charles's book, and do. What did you say, 75?
Oh, the tactical voting.
Yeah. I'm going to go 74.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, this has paid off for Alex
Yeah.
because the
Oh,
critic score is actually 59%.
really?
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess as an overall, that's a solid 3 stars, just about.
I feel like this is a movie that the critics blasted, but audiences actually really liked. That's the impression I get when I think back about this
True.
movie. Like the audiences thought it was great, but the critics weren't as happy with it.
In that case, Alex, do you want to give us the audience score? Your guess?
87.
87.
Wow. Now the question is, do I reciprocate the filthy tactics, or do I?
But in which
do I
direction? That's the
Which
thing.
direction?
Which
That is true.
direction?
Well, to be fair, you've gone pretty high there. What did you say? 87.
87.
87. I don't think it was quite that high, so I'm gonna veer towards 86.
Well, it has paid off for you because it's 85%.
Oh, wow, that was close.
Ah.
So
Wow.
you guys were both close. Yeah.
But
I
I still
thought you had it there, Alex. I'm sorry.
let's just clarify. I won that one.
Yes.
Yes, then that's your point.
Just want to make sure everyone knows it.
You can give us the critic score for Taken 2.
Okay, so Taken 2 is not as bad as Taken 3, but is significantly worse than Taken 1. Actually, no, I think Taken 3 was mildly better. Okay, I'm going to go for a lofty 2%.
2%.
Yes. I'll clarify that, 0.2%.
Okay, so 2% for the critic score, Alex.
Well, if I just say 3, then I feel like I've got a huge chance here. And like, I have no idea what the number is, but that kind of
What do you think they gave it?
not 2. I don't know if it's
To be honest, I don't think many
actually,
places.
can I say I haven't actually seen 2. I've seen 1 and 3, and I specifically didn't watch 2 because I looked at it. I thought that looks awful. So I mean, if this is actually 2, I'm not going to be like, no way or anything like that. But I will be pretty surprised. But I won't be like gobsmacked. I'm going to go with 15.
15.
Oh, I think you might
well,
get that.
it's actually 22%.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think that's still at least 20% more than it should have got.
That is fair, but so Alex, you want to give us the audience score then? What do you think they made of the sequel?
The audience couldn't have liked it. Maybe they did. I don't know.
But did they like it more than the critics? Is the question, I guess.
I think in general, probably. So if it was 20, did you say 22?
Yes.
I'm going to go 45.
And Dan, what do you reckon?
45. That's fairly generous, to be honest. The one thing we talked about an action sequences, and then you think to like James Bond and Bourne and all that quick cutting, fast flurry. I remember there's at least one, if not two, relatively long scenes of action sequences in this movie where you just have no idea what's going on. It's just a blur. You can't see anything. It's hideous, actually.
Is this one of those ones where it's like I know that in the Bourne movies they had a lot of like random handheld camera shots and stuff. I haven't seen this movie, so I don't know what it actually looks like. But do you mean it in that sense? Just
Yeah, very much
filmed?
so. Yeah, it very and really quick cuts. So there'll be a split second of a fist, and then a split second of their head, and then a split second of a foot, and you just like this just doesn't make any sense. And
you know why they've done that, because he's so old that it's
they want him to be born, but he can't do it. Yeah. He just can't do it.
Closely filmed.
If you want a good laugh, look up Taken 3 jumping over the fence scene.
Okay. I remember the scene. I do remember that scene. Yeah.
It's about 30 cuts to get Liam Neeson over the fence.
I remember that specifically, actually. Wow, okay. I do remember that. That's a lot of cuts. He's just jumping a fence. Yeah. That's funny.
So that is. I mean, that basically tells you everything. So I mean, so what did you say? You said 45, didn't you, Alex?
Hmm.
I'm gonna err on the slightly lower side. I'm gonna say 35.
Well, it's actually 52%.
What?
Really?
Yeah, another to Alex. Yes, the audience weren't quite as disapproving as
I mean,
you
I haven't
guys.
seen it, so I assume that I'd never heard anything good, and I watched a trailer, and it was actually the actor that they used for the villain as well, was just like, of course you cast him. He's always your European villain. Like, it was almost
Too
too obvious.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the actor, but it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, they turned sharply from the first Taken, which was in this country. I'm not sure what the ratings are over in Oz or in New Zealand, but it was a straight 18, the first movie, and it dealt with some really nasty themes actually, and it didn't hold back in a lot of that. The violence was not quite the Raid level of violence, but it was definitely
It wasn't really the violence that was so jarring
it
about
was
it. It's
content.
it's
Yeah,
this prostitution and kidnapping
yeah.
industry in Europe. Yeah.
It was a really gnarly film in that sense, really gnarly. And then they obviously went, "Hey, guess what? Loads of teenagers are watching this movie. Why don't we make the next one a teen-rated movie? And that way we can get an even younger audience to watch it and make more money." And so they made it a 12, which is not. It's not even like dropping it to a 15. They put a significant amount of effort into making sure that you didn't see anything, and it dealt with nothing of substance really. And then you're left with a bit of a, pardon the pun, a damp squib of a movie,
Yeah.
and it was just a bit of a mess. So, it's not a surprise. I'm surprised it got. What did you say? Taken One was an audience score of 59.
85.
Oh, 85. Oh, it's the critics one. Okay, that makes more sense to me. I was like 59 to 55. That doesn't seem. Yeah, that makes more sense. I would say it's less than 55 personally, but I guess some people like their action dumb and fun.
Okay, so Alex, you want to give us the critic score for Taken 3?
I do remember watching this one, and it had the most transparent plot ever, and the most just the plot twist. It's like we've introduced a character. He is the husband or something of his wife, his ex-wife. You've made him look like a bad guy. Somehow he's going to end up being the bad guy, even though it doesn't make sense for him to be so.
Yeah.
I reckon it was really bad. At least the critics would have said it was really bad. So probably 20.
20%. And for you, Dan, what do you reckon the critics thought?
I mean, considering the last one was 22, but that being said, I kind of feel like it had taken its toll by that point. And so I'm gonna say 10. I'm gonna go for 10%.
Well, in that case, Dan, you're the closest. It is 13%.
Oh,
That's terrible.
Yes,
wow.
not well received at all.
Maybe he should stop doing action movies.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he should stop.
So, what do you reckon for the audience score then, Dan?
Audience score again. I'm gonna reckon it's lower. What was the last one? 55,
52.
52. Okay, let's go 42.
42 for Dan. And for
Yeah.
you, Alex?
I can't say 42 as well, can I?
No.
Okay.
Make your choice, Alex. Higher or lower?
I reckon higher, but I don't know how much. Would you say 42?
Yeah, 42.
The answer to the question
Life,
of
the
the life, the
universe,
universe, and everything. Yeah. I hope it's 42. Really, now that you brought it up. I'm gonna go 45.
Well, Alex, you've just stolen it away from Dan. It's actually 44%.
Oh, what?
44, yeah.
Mental.
No.
We're pretty good at this game.
So very close.
Very close.
Yes, no, you guys clearly have the knowledge to make accurate guesses.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how I did, seeing I've only seen 2 of those movies. So
Now for the final round, and we're back to
Movie news highlights of the week.
beautiful.
Very nice.
yes, thank you. We'll start this round with Dan. So, Dan, for your first clue. Hey, Maggot, which sequel is pending cast approval?
Hey, Maggot. It better not be Full Metal Jacket.
No.
Oh.
Did you say "Hey Maggot"?
Yes, I did. Hey, Maggot, which sequel is pending cast approval?
Oh, that'll be one of my favorite movies. Actually, that'll be in my top 25. The film of many titles: Live,
Yes,
Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, etc.
you are spot on. Yes, Edge of Tomorrow 2 will happen, they say, as soon as Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt approve the script. So it's all pending their approval. But yes, Live, Die, Repeat is a much cooler title.
Otherwise known as Edge of Next Week.
Edge of next week, yes.
Do you know why I love that movie? There's just something satisfying about watching Tom Cruise die over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know what it was, but I just loved that movie.
I genuinely thought that was one of the best sci-fi movies of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I thought I could go on about it for a long time, to be honest. It's incredible. One of the great things that I love about that movie, not to go off too much on a rant because you could keep me here for ages talking about this. I love the perspective changes in the film. So there's a certain point where you realize you're watching from a certain perspective and your understanding of how this time travel is playing out is coming from one angle, and then all of a sudden you switch to something else, and it's surprising. And there's the Groundhog Day formula is something that has been done a couple of times recently, some with greater success, like Palm Springs, which came out last year, and with this, it can get old if you don't keep it fresh. And then there's another point, probably another 30 minutes or so forwards, where your perspective of this time traveling changes again. And it's just really smart. It's from start to finish, it's a really clever movie. It's shot incredibly well. It's written note perfect, and I absolutely love it. And it genuinely one of my top 25 of all time. Actually, I've watched it a number of times. I think it's incredible.
Oh, it's one of my go-to movies. I mean, fun fact for you: the first time I watched it was actually when I was living at your house when you were in Hawaii, Dan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You snuck it off my
Um,
DVD shelf.
yeah. I mean, it's since then become one of my go-to action flicks, and it actually was the movie that got me back into Tom Cruise because there's a while there where I kind of avoided anything with him in it because I wasn't a massive fan, and then it kind of
Yeah.
rebooted my idea of who he was. So.
I love almost everything he's in, to be honest. I think he's again, we talk about Nicolas Cage, underrated or overrated. I think a lot of times, from an audience perspective, Tom Cruise as an actor is underrated. He's maybe, certainly at 60 years old, not overrated in terms of his action, but he's definitely underrated in terms of his acting ability. I think he's great. He's an interesting character. He obviously he's a leading man, so he obviously has a certain amount of charisma and charm that he can't get away from. But some of the older movies that he's done, things like Magnolia and Born on the 4th of July, you could maybe bundle some of his characters into very similar categories, but there's actually a lot of depth to like characters in Last Samurai, for example, and films like
I
that.
do like Last Samurai.
I do. That is definitely one of my top 25. Yeah, one of the things I love about Edge of Tomorrow is just obviously there's plenty of CGI, but the suits are all practical.
Yeah.
And you can just really tell it just makes such a difference with the action. I mean, you could say that about all of Tom Cruise's movies, like there's just, it elevates it so much by,
Being
you
real.
look at it, you go, oh my goodness, this is a superhero we're watching actually doing these things.
I remember watching Mission Impossible 4 at the movies and literally on the edge of my seat with that Dubai scene. Like,
Yeah.
when he looks out the window for the first time, there's very few moments when you're at the movies that are memorable. One of them was definitely Avatar. But yeah, this one was like definitely one of them, 'cause, like with that amazing shot showing all of Dubai from the top of that tower, that
Definitely.
angle that he actually was there. You felt like you were going to fall while sitting on your chair. It was really, really amazing.
It was incredible. Yeah, definitely.
I agree. For Edge of Tomorrow, do you think it can be compared to Groundhog Day, or is there no point? Because people often bring that up. They go, "Oh, it's just Groundhog Day, but sci-fi."
I mean, it is, but that's not a bad thing. Groundhog Day it was groundbreaking in terms of the, like, from what Dan said, the idea of using the same events but from different perspectives. That's why it worked, is because you got to see the same thing each time, but shifting into different stories and angles and ways of viewing the same events. That Groundhog Day did that well, and so did this movie. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. That it's a use of that formula, but in science fiction. In terms of a sequel, once again, I don't think it's necessary. It was a good movie, and sometimes good movies work best as standalone movies. And I think my opinion is this is one of them. Like, it works. It concludes. The concept that he had the ability to reset every time. It would be silly almost if they did a sequel in which he regains this ability. Why would he regain this ability plot wise?
Backtracking. Yeah.
I think it's done, and it was done well. I don't think we always need to sequelify everything.
Yeah, I think you have to do something different with it and take it in a slightly different direction. I think the issue that you come across with things like this in terms of sequels is the hero's conundrum. Save the cheerleader, save the world. Okay, once you've saved the cheerleader and you've saved the world, what do you do next? And
Yeah.
it's going to be nowhere near as thrilling or as interesting, even if the drama might be different. It's not going to be the same.
Especially during a writer's strike.
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, that just killed it completely. But these types of sequels like this, okay, so that he lost his power, he saved the world, defeated the enemy. What more can you do from that point? I've not read the graphic novels that they're based on, so I don't know if there is sequel material there. It'll be interesting to read through and have an idea of where they might plan to take it. So, I tread lightly in my anticipation of it. I would definitely see it if it was released, but like you say, Alex, is it necessary? You can definitely argue potentially not.
Yeah. The director Doug Liman is keen, and has said that he wants a sequel to be more character focused rather than just more explosions. A good question is that even possible? With a studio mandate.
Yeah, you've got to be really careful. Then you don't leave audiences short as well of their expectations. You've given them. You can't do Saving Private Ryan 2 retirement. It just won't. It doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
It's just them reminiscing about the event.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Private Ryan with PTSD, and that's not a fun. Yeah, that's not that the movie itself was fun by any means, but like,
no, it's not. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt in a room discussing the first movie. So you remember that time we
Drinking
drank
heavily.
the alien blood and yeah.
It probably turns into they actually have nothing to do with each other and then bump into each other. You remember that time that happened? It's like, yes, we did not get into a relationship after that because that's all we had in common. We were fighting a war. This was not a romance film.
The sequel's a rom-com.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like the Speed sequel, because like the Speed movie, Sandra Bullock says to Keanu Reeves, "We can't start a relationship after something like this. It never works." And then the sequel, she's not with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Sticks to her words.
Not the Speed sequel was any good. That's the only reason I like the Speed sequel, because of that one thing. But yeah.
And with that, Alex is on 15 points and Dan has 11, which means it's time for bonus points. So give Dan a chance to claw his way back to victory. These clues will be quickfire, so they're available to both my guests. First person in gets the points. So, clue number 1. Which famous father figure celebrated his birthday this week?
Ooh.
Famous father figure. Steve Martin, Father of the Bride.
No.
No. It was a friend of mine has the same birthday as him, and he brought him up. Who is it? Hold on. Kevin Costner.
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
90th birthday this week.
Oh, 90th.
Yeah.
90th.
He's an acting legend, best known to general audiences for being the voice of both Darth Vader and
James L.
Mufasa.
Jones.
Oh, James L. Jones.
James L. Jones.
Point to you, Dan. Yes, no, James Earl Jones celebrated his 90th birthday this past week. Okay, so for our next item, your clue. Which actor is beyond keen to wear his cape once more?
Keaton.
Yes, another point to you, Dan. Michael Keaton is keen to return as the Batman. The Batman Beyond storyline features an old Bruce Wayne training a teenager to become the new Batman, and which he is totally keen for. And Keaton is also rumored to appear in the upcoming Flash movie. Okay, and our final item this week. Alex still on 15, Dan on 13 now. So I'll make this next clue worth 3 points.
Oh, yes. Bring it back.
All to play for.
All my hard work. No, I'm just kidding.
The all-important points. Which director knows that a PG rating would finish him and his movie?
Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure the director's name.
Yes, you're quite right. The Mortal Kombat movie, which was teased in the HBO Max trailer, will not hold back on violence. This will be Simon McQuaid's debut feature. And before we wrap up, I want to ask you guys the question. If you had the chance to adapt a game into a film as your directorial debut, which game would you choose? And something that hasn't been adapted before.
Oh, this is a tough one because my immediate thought is The Last of Us, but that's obviously currently going on in production at HBO as a show. And then my other one would be Uncharted, which is obviously already in production as well. Kind of the big two. I think Assassin's Creed could be redone again. So I'd probably do one of the other Assassin's Creed games if I could. Or Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, something like that.
Yeah, I'd lean more towards those. Something that's less cinematic in and of itself, because I feel like a lot of those games are already standalone films the way that they're made. I'd do something a little bit older. I'm not sure if anyone's played some of the old LucasArts games. Monkey Island, I would go for.
Oh, wow.
Monkey Island.
Funny, old, and just quirky. It's basically what Pirates of the Caribbean was based on, but I reckon this would be, just because it's my childhood, I would watch that.
Yes, and as for myself, I actually would do an old PS3 game, Resistance: Fall of Man.
Oh yeah, that would be a good one.
Still one of my favourites, but I also would love to practically, with prosthetics, make the aliens, and I think you could make a really great movie.
Well, all three of them were great.
Yeah. And that's it. So, final scores on the door. So, Alex made a valiant effort with 15 points, but it's Dan this week who snatched victory.
Yes, finish him.
Second today with 16 points.
Amazing.
Congratulations, Dan.
Well done, man. Well done.
On your first appearance, you've won yourself a true feeling of achievement for at least the next week. Alex and Dan, was this a good week for the movie business? Do you reckon the news of this past week deserves the official seal of approval?
I think the HBO Max trailer with all the interesting things that they're previewing, Mortal Kombat's got me excited. So I would say yes. I'd give it a thumbs up.
I'm less inclined to do so. I feel like a lot of the things we brought up weren't super high on my radar of films I'd be bothered to go see. So I'm going to lead towards a no, actually.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm going to give it a seal of approval, not necessarily because of the quality of the news or what it's got me hyped for, but there's definitely reminding me of Galaxy Quest and movies such as that. For our audience out there, what was your news highlight of the week? Did we cover it? Did you agree with anything we had to say at all? Let us know. And so thanks for joining me today, Dan and Alex, and for all of you out there, and we'll see you next time.
Speaking of which, Callum. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to edit that out.